We're all set on the technical end, so whenever you want to get started.
So I'm going to wait a minute or two, and then we'll have you do your awesome spiel.
Sounds good. Then it looks like everybody who is so far signed up,
Yep.
except for one, but yeah.
Okay, so we'll get started. And so if you can do your will spiel.
Okay. Well, welcome everyone. If this is your first time joining us, you'll notice that you're muted and you're going to stay muted throughout the meeting, except for whenever the committee chair, Lynn Strong Shinozaki, calls on you. You can participate by going to the bottom of your screen and finding the reactions icon there and pressing it and finding the raise hand button to press that. You should press it only once. If you press it a second time, your hand will go back down, and make sure you're pressing the button that says raise hand. It's not the wave or the thumbs up. Those will disappear. If you're calling in from the phone, it's *9 to raise your hand and *6 to unmute. You should be on the lookout for a prompt asking you to confirm unmuting once Lynn calls on you. The chat is available for technical support if you're having any problems with the Zoom software. It's not to ask questions of Lynn or any of the presenters this evening. They will never see those chats. If you're using an older version of Zoom, you may need to go to the participants section where you'll find the raise hand feature there. And finally, please do not raise your actual hand or wave at the screen. We may not be able to see you and we may miss you. So you can always just chat me if you have any problems.
All right, thank you so much. Well, welcome this evening to everyone, and happy beginning of fall. We are hearing some reports of some severe rain, so hopefully everybody's at a good place in their either home or wherever, so they don't have to deal with what storm is supposed to be coming. But in lieu of the issues with the storm, I need to make some adjustments to our agenda. So I'm going to read out what those adjustments are, and then hopefully I'll get a motion to approve my agenda. So what we're going to do, instead of starting from the library that closed early this evening because of the storm, we're going to start the meeting with Corey from Rebecca Seawright's office, Corey Hansen. So he will be our agenda item number 1. Then we will have our fellows from REOC still with item number 2. The other change on our agenda will be in new business. What we're going to do is start a discussion and hopefully get a resolution about extending the roadway for an east-west road on the north side of Roosevelt Island. So at this point, I'd like to turn it over to Corey, and thank you, Corey, for coming.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Lynn, and thank you so much for having me. I just wanted to give 2 updates in regards to things we've been working on Roosevelt Island. The quick one to get out of the way is, as there was in the primary, there will be early voting on Roosevelt Island in the general election at Sports Park. Yes, they are under construction right now, but the construction is slated to be done in time for early voting for the general. So once again, as it was during the primary, during the general, early voting will be at Sports Park on Roosevelt Island. And then the second update is in regards to the banking situation. We've been working very hard since Immobilated shut down last year to try to replace the bank. We're working with Department of Financial Services on the state level, REOC, and every elected official that represents the island. Gail Brewer, Senator Serrano, Carolyn Maloney's office, Ben Kalos. We've been working on getting different institutions to give a tour of the island to really sell Roosevelt Island as an attractive spot for a bank. Department of Financial Services has been very good. They've been giving us a lot of guidance and support on this. And going around right now, being circulated, is a letter that is going to be going out to banking institutions for an open house on October 25th. Let me just confirm that date. I believe it's Monday. Yep, October 25th, where REOC, Cornell Tech, DFS, and all the elected officials will be taking different institutions at RSVP around the island and showing them the potential site of 2 different replacement sites, and hopefully one of them ends up working out. And we're working very hard to secure at least one of these interested banks. And that letter should be going out soon, hopefully by the beginning of next week. So I'm happy to answer any questions on either of the things I brought up.
I think it's fantastic news on both, Corey. I personally was a little concerned about where we might be doing early voting, because I did hear that there was construction going on. So it's great to hear that they will be able to still do the early voting at what now is our early voting site. So that's fantastic news. And that's great progress, I think, in terms of getting a bank here. So Will, if you could unmute Sharon.
Thank you, Will. Thank you, Lynn. Corey, I wanted to find out whether or not the Residents Association will also be assisting with accompanying individuals or banking representatives to the 2 different sites on Roosevelt Island?
That's a good question. I would have to ask REOC. I think that's a decision that REOC would make, but if yes, that's something I will ask, and I could get back to you. Is it possible for you just to shoot me an email with exactly which representatives would be coming, just so I could make the ask, and then I'm sure I could get an answer by tomorrow even.
Yeah, no, I'm only thinking the president and vice president.
Okay.
But sure, I can shoot you an email.
Yeah, my email, just so I'm sure if you don't have it, it's Hassan, it's my last name, H-A.
I have your email.
Great. And then, yeah, as of now, in terms of the folks that are slated to come, it's the elected officials, Shelton and, REOC, some
Yes.
Department of Financial Services, Cornell Tech, and I believe Russell representing Community Board 8.
Yes. And also, if you don't mind, I would also be interested in learning whether or not the Seniors Association will be participating as well.
Yeah.
So the two organizations would be the Residents Association as well as the Seniors Association.
Absolutely. And I think the more we could show that there's broad support for a bank and pretty much everyone that has stake on the island is interested in it, I think that's going to go a long way for sure. And obviously having a bank on the island is very important for seniors. We know they're being hit one of the hardest, as well as disabled.
Absolutely.
So absolutely agree. That would be a great idea.
Yeah, we're desperate, Corey.
Yeah, no, absolutely. This has been something we've been meeting monthly about this. We're really excited for this open house. It's actually going to also be happening during early voting. And one of the sites we're showing them is by Sports Park. And there'll be a lot of active activity there because of early voting. So I think it's also a very good day to schedule the tour.
And while you were thinking, everyone else, I just was thinking that we should thank you and Assemblymember Seawright I really appreciate everything that you're doing and that she is doing. We really do need a bank.
Oh, absolutely. And if there's anything else, or if you have any ideas of any other folks that are interested, just again, shoot me an email or just give me a call at
I
the
will.
community office.
Thank you so much. But it's just those two.
Great.
Okay, I think what I'm going to do is move the agenda forward. And what we're going to do is now go to Prince from REOC. And before we go to Prince, what I'd like to say is that I heard that he's been recently promoted to the position of assistant director. And I think that that's fantastic. And I'm so happy to hear that. He has been doing an amazing job here in the community with a lot of his projects. He's got, I think, a small fan club here on the island in terms of the work that he does. And so I'd like to congratulate him on his promotion, and he's going to do some capital projects update and help us with our subway entrance presentation. Thank you, Prince.
Thank you. Thank you for your kind words. Let me share my screen. So as you stated, my name is Prince Shah. I'm the Assistant Director of Capital Planning and Projects at REOC, and I will be presenting the capital projects update. Please let me know if you can see the screen. It says sharing. You can see the screen, right?
Yes, we can.
Awesome. All right. So by the way of update, I don't have a lot of items to share, but I'm just going to go through the high level projects or the projects with highest impact, and then just give you the brief update of where we are, who the general consultant contractor is, and what it looks like or what it will look like. So the first project is Sports Park Renovation. This project is regarding the Sports Park complex on Roosevelt Island. We'll be renovating the facility. It will have upgraded full filtration system, completely upgraded HVAC system. We're also upgrading the gym floors. We are making sure that as with every other project we have on the island, every new project, we ensure that there's ADA compliance and compatibility throughout all our new projects. So we are also making some ADA upgrades within the locker rooms in this project. This is a big project for us, and make a big impact as far as the end use case for the community. It will make it very efficient as a space, and it'll be another jewel, I can say, for community use. As you can see here, and before and after, not only we are upgrading the insides, we're also making sure that we give the project and the building a much needed facelift, making more modern, really responding to the new building typologies and the building and the architecture essentially on the island with Cornell Tech. So we're trying to make sure all our new buildings or all our projects are improving aesthetically as well. So this is what this is the current. It's brick building essentially, and after we're going to have these metal panels. It'll mimic kind of what's on the one-story building at Cornell in terms of the aesthetics, just different colors. And I think it'll work. We envision this to almost look like a beacon, which is, as you approach the Sports Park building, you'll see this kind of a shiny facade, and you'll be able to easily recognize this facility that gets used by hundreds of people. That's the Sports Park project. The next project, which I'm very excited about, is the Lighthouse Tower restoration. The Lighthouse Tower itself is being restored. The consultant is Thomas A. Fenneman Architects. They are very well known in historic reservation. They've done a lot of work on Roosevelt Island, including, I believe they worked on the kiosk as well for Miss Judy Birdie. So this, they're very well known. And the contractor that we're using, ICC Construction, specializes in lighthouse construction. They are actually, they've gotten the whole thing down to science. They're prefabbing some of the items and doing in kind of a whole offsite fabrication. So this is kind of the existing, actually, I don't have the photos of existing, but this is the rendering of what the tower will look like once the construction is completed. which is slated to be completed by the end of this year. We're also going to have kind of new LED lights. So if you're looking from other boroughs, Queens, Manhattan, you'll be able to see kind of this beacon of light or lighthouse essentially on Roosevelt Island. And I think it will be something, it will add a lot of value to the Lighthouse Park, and also to folks visiting the park, be it our community or visitors. Next project, which is happening right in front of the Lighthouse Tower, is the Nellie Bly project. Nellie Bly, the Girl Puzzle Monument, is designed by Prometheus Foundry. The sculpture installation or the sculpture fabrication is ongoing right now. Patina and waxwork is ongoing. But what I do want to concentrate on, what I do want to guide everyone to, is the girlpuzzle.com website. We've done a lot of work in the recent months onto the website. We've added the audio guides. We've spent a lot of time fine-tuning the audio, the photos, the process. For someone like me, who didn't know much about how the sculptures are made, the website will definitely prove to be a huge source. I see the website being used by even college students and folks interested in sculpture and sculpture making. We go through the whole detail. There's progress photos, 3D scan clips, and photos of enlargements. There's all sorts of cool stuff on the website. So, if someone has a moment, if you have a moment, please check out the girlpuzzle.com. It's got a lot of cool stuff that is worth, looking into and kind of really understanding. We even go through like the concept, why the sculptures look the way it does. What is the meaning behind this trapezoid shape? Why is it important? Why are the faces the size they are? We go into a full detail, and I think it's worth checking out. All right. The next project is Blackwell Park Pavers. The current project, we've started the construction of this project a couple months ago. The scope of the work for Blackwell Park Pavers Improvement Project is to redo the existing sidewalks, make sure that, like I mentioned earlier, ADA accessibility is a key. So making sure that all the slopes are correct. Previously they were not, but some of these sidewalks were constructed in the 70s. So, over the years, they've settled and they had exceeded their kind of lifespan. So we redid a lot of the sidewalks, or all of the sidewalks, I should say, ensured that it meets ADA compatibility. But not only that, we've also expanded the sidewalks. So one of the things we had noticed was that the sidewalks were very narrow. So, two people passing had to kind of jump onto the grass. One person had to jump onto the grass to walk by. So we expanded the sidewalks. We're kind of answering to the community needs and the needs of the site. This is kind of a main thoroughfare for people going to the subway or people going towards the water. So we wanted to ensure that the sidewalks are wide enough. So the larger kind of scope was to fix the sidewalks, fix the Blackwell Plaza, which is a lot of pavers that are health and safety hazard with tripping hazards and whatnot. So we're fixing those. We're kind of redoing the whole plaza. We've also cleaned up the plaza that is outside of the Roosevelt Island Library. We envision the space to be an outdoor seating area. Someone could check out a book, bring it outside, read it in the space. We will be installing tables in this space along with the benches for any activities for kids. So the tables can be used for kids activities, or even to kind of sit around in a group and read books, book clubs. We envision this to be a very kind of an extension for the library, the New York Public Library, in terms of kind of the program use case. And also, after library hours, someone could come in here and enjoy the space. There could be public theaters. Library area could be used by the local theater groups. It could be used for educational purposes. So there's a lot of activities that could be done. And so we've recently just opened this area to public. The other portion is the sidewalk, as I mentioned. The previous sidewalks were all in disrepair. There was a health and safety risk with a lot of the tripping hazards. So what we have done is we've expanded the whole sidewalk in about 95% of the area by one whole flag. So you have 5 more feet of sidewalk. Previously, there used to be just about 10 to 12 feet. Now it's even wider, so people can kind of pass through as they're walking by. But that's kind of the major upgrade in this project. The overall project will complete by end of this year. The next is the Cram station elevators, which I know a lot of folks from CB8 are always interested in, as this is on your side of the tram, and the project has been a long time coming with a lot of kind of the structural soil issues and whatnot. So, but I'm very happy to say we are almost there. Now we've completed all our exterior facade work on the outside, on the south side of the building. So what you see now is what essentially will look like when it opens. What we are working on now is the elevators itself. Elevator 1 work, which is the east side elevator, is close to completion. The next big step for that is regulatory approvals. So once we are ready for inspections, we'll be calling for DOB inspections. Once the inspections are done, we should be able to open that elevator and then start the demolition on the other elevator. There's no timeline on all of this yet, because as everyone knows, once the regulatory approvals can take a while, and especially during COVID times. I know a lot of DOB, Department of Building inspectors and services are catching up to filling up and responding to the inspections that were even made a while ago. So we don't have a timeline yet, but hopefully by the next meeting, I'll have some better news on this project. But all in all, it's still good news. We're making progress. We're not a standstill like we were during COVID times. So I'm excited. And hope to really look forward to actually opening this project to public eventually. The next and the last one that I really wanted to highlight is the Mcmanus Welcome Station. I'm very proud of this project. I've been personally involved with this with our team for the past 3.5 years. And the project's finally open. It's open to public as of 2 weeks ago. Some of the big upgrades we made, and I'll show you in the photos coming up, are again, ADA accessibility. The previous site did not have accessibility for someone using a wheelchair or even someone using a stroller. We have added 2,000 square feet of green roof, which is very relevant. It's climate week. And every project that we do have a portion of sustainability. We ensure that all our projects in somewhat or the other are responding to the sustainable and sustainability challenges of today. So this project required, one of the requirements were to add kind of a shade structure. So we've taken that idea and added green roof. We've also added about 8,000 square feet of new landscape. We have upgraded the seating. Before, only about 20 people could sit and watch the games. Now more than 150 people can hang out there and look at the games, or even use the space as a park. Previously, it used to just be a space where if you had someone who's playing soccer in your family, or if you're visiting a friend, you would sit there and watch soccer. Now it's more a space that it's a park. Now you can go there at all times of the day, enjoy the space. You can work from there. There's picnic tables, there's benches. You can take your meetings from there, study. Every time I walk by and I see someone studying there, it makes me very happy. Or using their laptop, I feel proud. I was like, yes, I'm glad people are using it. So here's some photos. This is before. It was constructed about 30 years ago. And a lot of the building was in disrepair, structurally architecturally, functionally. So this is what it looks like now. And visually, you can see the before and after. It's quite the difference. And we've changed the facade. The facade is now sustainably sourced wood facade. It's recycled wood essentially. The storage areas have been improved and they've been made bigger for our staff, who will need to be able to store field grooming equipment. So this is essentially the phase 2 of the project. Phase 1 was a turf field, which we opened, I think it was 2019. Phase 2 is now the comfort station or the welcome station. It has the bathrooms, the storage facility for our maintenance crew. We have added drinking fountains with bottle filling stations. We also have upgraded concession stand. I know the teams that deal with permitting are actively looking for vendors for the concession stand. Personally, I think it's a really good spot. On the north end, there's no other place there for folks to get coffee or chips or soda, whatever have you. I think it's a great spot. If you are listening to this and you're interested, make sure you reach out to the info email at react.ny.gov. And the right person will get in touch with you. But this is the before, this is the after. This is the previous seating, which is a tiny, small seating area, kind of uncomfortable. You can see the little remnants of the old turf. This is the new seating area. We've ensured that the whole site from north to south is essentially a seating area. And you will see it kind of, from the same language of upgrading the architectural aesthetics of the island. You'll see that it also takes some inspiration from Cornell Tech and their seating areas. We wanted to make sure that we are constantly upgrading the island aesthetics and architecture to respond to the current needs and current conditions. So we have seating areas that are just kind of concrete bench. We have seating areas with wood slots, wood benches, and then we have seating areas with backs as well. And then we have companion areas in the middle for someone with accessibility needs. So this is what the overall looks like. Phase 1 was the field, which is loved by many people. Every time I go there and they see me in my REACT shirt, they compliment me. So it always makes me happy that our team did a great job. And this is where you can see the whole seating area. Now you can see it from north to south. We also repurposed a lot of the stones in the site and made it into additional seating areas, which is another kind of a cool factor. And then you see the green roof, all the additional landscape that's all around. It's about 8,000 square feet. That's all I have. That's all the capital updates.
So I had a couple questions and comments, so I'll go ahead and start with those.
Sure.
But again, a fantastic presentation and super appreciate it. So comment, the outside of the library, I know that there were some people who were upset that it was, that it was cemented over. But I have to say that I was there Friday and we walked around that area. And I really personally think it super complements the library and creates now a whole place that's outside where kids could do learning things outside. And I think that's fantastic. And the one question that I had for you is I didn't see any lampposts outside. I do like how you marked and did the living library stuff. I did notice that you guys kept the integrity to that. There were definitely some people who wanted to see that happen.
Right.
But I know that you have electricity through your lampposts. And I was just wondering, in terms of using that for event space, is there some place people could plug in to use that space?
There is. So we had envisioned that, this space might be used by, I think it's called Main Street Theater. And right. So one of the things we figured was, okay, maybe there will be some theater or music, live music. So these are not the best photos to showcase that, but there is an outdoor receptacle or outdoor plug that is kind of right between the walls here somewhere. And that was the intention. Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. That's awesome. So then I'm going to skip over, and then I had some questions about Mcmanus Field.
Yep.
I really love what's been done there. And I love the tables that are outside. I definitely have seen people using them. And the thing that's so interesting is, you know, that whole thing where if you build it, they will come. I've been there on the weekend since it opened and saw like soccer teams and all of the seating is being utilized. And
Yeah.
so I was going to ask if there's any possibility of potentially a phase 3 where you could add some more seating on that side where the comfort station is, and then potentially on the other side that you can't see in the picture, but
Right.
where, so that would be kind of like the opposite team side, and whether there would be a chance to put in some, because I love those wood topped seating that you put in there.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly that. And I think that would be super awesome, because I was really stunned at how many people were utilizing the seating when I've gone by like 2 weekends in a row. So, you know, and the last thing that I wanted to comment on that somebody made a comment to me about was, now that we have this great bathroom, we need to put signs at places like the tennis court and potentially other places nearby so that people know they can go there for restrooms, which I really thought was a great suggestion. You know, like say you're over by Octagon, you can direct people north to the comfort station over by Lighthouse Park, and then potentially south to that great bathroom facility. And I just thought that was a stellar idea on their part too, because if you're not from here, you don't know.
Right. Yeah. I think that totally makes sense to me. What I will do is I will definitely bring up all of these suggestions and comments to our team. Some of these are, I mean, something like sign a tennis court for the restroom and, you know, just showing an arrow. I think that's definitely achievable, even as a temporary measure, just a printed, laminated sign. You know, and I get it. You know, I lived on the island for over a year, and I know that, you know, a lot of people that come there don't know where the comfort stations are, and it's a necessity. So yeah, I love that idea. I'll definitely bring that up with the team.
So I do have one other request for you. If you could go back to that overview picture, because that's going to come up later. So as you're looking at this overview picture that Prince has done for us, on the left, you see a red car. So that is a road that goes halfway through the island. And what we're going to be proposing in our new business is extending that road all the way through to the island. We used to have an east-west road that allowed traffic to go east-west and rescue vehicles and other things. And when they built Octagon, they took away that north-east-west road. So one of the proposals that I was hoping that the committee could do tonight is do a resolution requesting that they investigate and consider doing a full east-west road at that point. So thank you for that picture, because that's really helpful. That's much better than the picture I took, but we're going to show later, that gives people an idea of what road I'm talking about. Exactly. So thank you for that. Does anybody else have any questions for Prince? Will, if you could unmute Sharon.
Hello, I have a couple of questions, and I think I'll start working backwards with regard to Sports Park. And all of the projects are just really very lovely. And we're just, I mean, it's just absolutely wonderful that we have these projects on Roosevelt Island, and so much appreciate your stewardship over them. With respect to Sports Park in particular, I noticed that there is a window that appears as if tickets could be sold from the window. It looked like it had a little oval underneath in which you could accept cash and slide something under it. Is that what that is, or is that something else?
Okay, so what as part of the project, and I think this image is a little better explanation. What we're doing is we are changing the way the entrance.
Oh, I do apologize. I'm sorry. I'm not talking about Sports
Octagon.
Park.
I'm sorry.
I'm talking about
Mcmanus.
Mcmanus. Exactly. That's it. Yep.
So that.
So yeah, I saw it. You can't see in this picture, but there's an oval there, and it just reminded me of a ticket window.
Right. So that's actually that's the concession stand.
Okay.
Right. So we are actively looking for vendors for that concession stand to sell like chips, sodas, and anything that they can sell out of that small space.
I see.
Yeah. So it can act as a small, maybe a coffee shop, something for folks that are on the northern end of the island.
Okay, all right.
And,
But that oval, it just seemed you can't pass a cup of coffee through that.
No, this is a huge window, actually.
No, the bottom part of the window, there's an oval cutout. That's why it reminded me of a movie theater ticket window. So yeah, it's at the bottom of the window, it's a cutout. And I know that you won't be able to pass, but I understand.
Yeah, I think it's just the way the image is coming through. It's actually a huge door.
No, I saw it. I was there the other day, so I did see it. Yeah. Okay. And just keep that picture there. What I liked was that the painting there is red. And I am very much in support of continuing this red theme. And the reason is that it's very much Roosevelt Island. It's very much contextual because we have it in various places. Not so much anymore, which is really a disappointment. But the red theme, I think, helps to connect the entire island. And and the reason why I'm thinking about this, because a couple of times in the presentation, you did speak to, and not in particular to this project, but you did speak to how, for example, Cornell Tech provided inspiration for some ideas, and in particular with respect to Sports Park, how it's complementary to the visual experience of Cornell Tech. And you know what? So I was thinking that there is so much more. I mean, I totally love Cornell Tech and what's going on there, but I think it's also critical that we look at how we can create a theme, and to a certain extent that's already in place with that red color. So for example, on a couple of different blocks on Main Street where we have kiosks and put up signs, I believe that the tops of those are red. And at one point, the parking garage was painted in red as well. So this consistent theme, if you will, I works very well to transition from one area of Roosevelt Island to another. It helps with that transition. And also it helps with a kind of consistency, if you will, instead of separate, disparate, points of light. So sort of closing this loop with respect to Sports Park, I don't know if it's too late or we're just completely, far beyond any consideration. But I would really like to see, painting somewhere that's red.
Right. So I think you'll be very happy to know that the interior of sports, while the exterior, it's modernized and aesthetically, the interior of Sports Park has a lot of design cues taken from the colors of the island, the red of the island as well. And as we have some more photos and progress photos in the upcoming meetings, I think you'll be very happy to see how the inside has taken the inspiration from the island. The idea was, make it this kind of a beacon essentially as you're walking towards the building. So it's not this something that it's like the back of the house looking building, but it's an important feature of the island.
Yes,
and it's for the kids.
It was a back of the house looking building. I think that was that certainly is an accurate characterization. I'm wondering if there's anything that we could do on the outside of the building. For example, I think in that area there was a kiosk there that had a red band around the top. I understand that sometimes these additions might seem really minuscule and not have that much of an impact. But the other side of the coin is it can really help, I think, in experiencing Roosevelt Island in a cohesive manner instead of just going from one, some could think going from one jarring section of the island to something that is entirely, vastly different. That type of cohesion, if you will, I think is very necessary.
I really agree with what you're saying, Sharon. And I think you might have lived on the island long enough to remember when they decided to paint everything blue, and there was almost a mutiny on the island because we are such Roosevelt Island redders.
Red.
Have been there for a long time. So
I forgot about that.
I definitely have to say that there are many of us who concur with the comments that Sharon made in terms of how we identify with that red color, and that anytime you can include that as a design element, you can only have a successful outcome with the community who are invested in red. I don't know how else to say it, but and besides that, it is one of my favorite colors. But anyway, so what I'm going to do, if you don't mind,
I have one other question.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, with respect to the library, I absolutely love the outdoor space, by the way. As a matter of fact, any any reading space is good space as far as I'm concerned. But there was mention of it being a performance space. And so the library buffers Roosevelt Landing. I'm thinking about the noise issue, but directly across the street is River Cross. And so I just want to make sure that we're keeping in mind, in terms of, when these events take place, that we are keeping in mind that, that there should be a cutoff time, because the space is so close to residential buildings.
Right, and that comment really comes from when I lived on the island. I've seen a lot of outdoor. They had like a lot of kids performing outdoor during the day. Just small children performing, and they were performing in the Blackwell Plaza. And I thought, you know what, that use case scenario in this space, and it's just little kids, doing the song and dance that they were doing. But that scenario in this use case would be awesome, where you have this kind of almost a trapezoidal space that is shaped in a way that you look towards one thing. So that would be cool. And that's kind of where that comment came from.
Okay, thank you so much for your stewardship and everything that you're doing. And
thank you.
My hat is off. I don't wear hats, but if I had one, I would tip it to Riak. Thank you.
Thank you.
So what I'm going to do, Prince, I want you to kind of hang there for a minute, but I want to join, John joined us. And so I just want to touch base really quick. I had a conversation with Shelton, I think it was a week or two ago. And what we were talking about was the recent car incidents where the neighbors were injured and by being hit by cars. And I kind of challenged him to kind of think about that, because we still have, and I think Sharon is one of them, people who've been on the island when it was designated really not to have cars. And there's enough of us that are still here that really don't think of Roosevelt Island as a car place. Or a place that, it has lots of traffic. And so I just was hoping that John could give us that update that has come out of some of those discussions in the community about what you guys are looking at and addressing now. If Will, if you could unmute John.
Yeah, hi guys. Sorry I joined late. I had some things going on. My wife got vaccinated today and she's not, she had a little bit of a reaction. So we were trying to take care of that. Let me go back into the color red real quick for Sports Park. The facade that we did on Sports Park, we tried to match it up to what they had on Cornell, on the facade that Cornell did, and then try to incorporate the red inside the building. So we're trying to not get away from the red, but we're trying to, because we're so close to Cornell, we're trying to match the color of the facade and the texture of the facade similar to what they have on the Cornell campus. So that was just to give you a heads up, just on the reasons why we picked that type of color. And the font that, I don't know if you guys saw the font that the tennis center put up on their facility, but I actually shared the font that we're going to use on Sports Park with Skip Hartman, and he used the same font, so we have some consistency in that area, both with color and with font on the buildings, really to attract in the Manhattan area, to bring people over, both for the tennis center, for the Cornell campus, and for use of Sports Park. So just wanted to give you a heads up on what the thought process was behind picking that color and that style on Sports Park. Relative to traffic, we understand the traffic issue. There's a lot of double parked cars on Main Street. It's difficult to get by. We have on capital plan a traffic study. I know that they've been done previously, but they've been done a little longer than what we think is appropriate as far as what we have today. So we do have some plans to do a traffic study for Main Street in coordination with the bike lane and the bike ramp, try to understand how we're going to move traffic through Main Street. The traffic really between 591 or maybe between the public school and the and Blackwell House has been an issue for us. So we're aware of it, and we're trying to figure out what the right steps would be relative to doing a traffic study and understanding how everything is going to be coordinated and how all the logistics are going to work.
So John, I want to throw in there for people who aren't from Roosevelt Island community, why that strip is so significant is that you have a couple of schools in that strip. You have a senior center where people with mobility issues are crossing the street. And then you have the youth center and the public library, all within that strip that you just described, where you're going to have the most amount of potentially people crossing, probably not in the crosswalks, et cetera, et cetera. So I appreciate that you're addressing that specific need and those specific areas. So what I'm going to do is I see some hands up, and I'm going to go to Paul. We haven't heard from him yet tonight. Will, if you could unmute Paul for us.
Thank you, Lynn. And thank you, Shah, for your presentation earlier as well. Thank you so much. It was terrific. I just want to support exactly what Lynn just said. This island, which I came to just over a year ago, I mean, when I got it, I realized how calm and nice it was to live here. I've been here a lot in the past before that. And a lot of that's down to the calming of the cars. But they're not tamed completely. They're calm compared to other places. It's probably the least bad place in the whole of New York City in terms of cars. But we shouldn't be having people killed or injured in this case here. And in a broader context, this city, we've had 190 deaths this year already from cars. When I was thinking about that number back in July, it was only 160 something. So in the last couple of months, we've had another 20 plus. We shouldn't have cars in a place like this. There's no reason to. We have the bus. There's lots of reasons not to. Let's finish the job and make this island an even nicer place to live.
You know, I don't think cars are the biggest issue for us, to be honest with you, Paul. I think the biggest issue is deliveries. The biggest problem that we have on the island really are the deliveries to the retail outlets, and that's where you get the double parking and the issues relative to spots. We've had a number of different discussions. We haven't really landed on one specific solution. We've talked about deliveries being only able to come on the island between early morning before rush hour or after rush hour in the afternoon, where there's not a lot of cars going by. We've talked about figuring out if there's alternate spots or spaces that when delivery trucks show up, we can put them into a different area so they don't double park. I agree that the traffic between the public school and Blackwell House is an issue. There's no question about it, because I mean, quite frankly, I almost ran somebody over today who was crossing in between a car and a truck and not in the crosswalk, and just stepped out in the middle of the street, and that was quick enough to step on the brake, but I probably would have run him over in 2 seconds if I was going too fast. We've tried to put enough stop signs on main streets as for more for a speed control aspect than anything else. But I don't think you can really get away from no vehicles on Roosevelt Island, because we do need to have delivery trucks, ambulances, rescue vehicles, and things on the island. I just don't think we're going to be able to eliminate it completely.
Can I just follow up with one comment? I take your point completely, but I'm trying to go beyond how to make this safe. The analogy I'd give you is I did a lot of work on getting bike lanes in Manhattan and elsewhere. And to me, the best bike lane's on 2nd Avenue. It's the best protected bike lane there is. And I wouldn't let my 13-year-old ride anywhere near it because it's not safe. So we're trying to make bike lanes and places like that safe. What I'd much rather have is go beyond that, make it a nice, pleasant cycle path where cars can't cut across you. And the analogy comes to this island. It's not just about getting rid of the cars, just to make it safer. This place could be even more idyllic if you could walk everywhere without fear of being hit by cars all the time. Of course, you have to have room for emergency service vehicles and police to come in, obviously. But the ordinary course, you can deliver stuff, by the way. There's absolutely no reason why the delivery trucks couldn't park their trucks at the helix and put stuff on carts or on bikes. The bikes are being used everywhere in this island. You can in Manhattan, they have these bike guys with very long things behind them, or they push the carts. Why not do that? It's not that hard to get, I don't know, 200-300 yards. And if that would stop the trucks getting in there and causing double parking, causing danger, why not do that?
There's a couple things on that, Paul. One is, it's exactly why Prince has been working with the bike lane design to try to get the bikes off Main Street and get it in a route that does not impact everybody. The other aspect of it is the macro aspect of it is that we're trying to get footsteps on Main Street. And if we have an issue with retailers being able to bring their products into the stores because there's additional cost of delivery, it's going to cause the retail outlets on the stores to potentially have issues relative to being sustainable. So there's more to it than just eliminating vehicles going back and forth on Main Street. So we have all that stuff is in the back of our minds and trying to understand exactly what the right answer is. I'm not a traffic expert by any means. That's why we want to go out to a consultant and talk to a consultant, have them come in and look at the traffic patterns, the volume, and stop signs, signage, and all that all comes into play in one area. So I don't have the answer for you today. That's why I want to reach out to the experts and try to get them to come in and really look at traffic volume, parking, signage, bike lane, bike ramp. We want to look at the whole thing as one big pie to try to make sure we understand the whole concept. And Prince will agree, if we just put a bike lane in, that's not going to be a solution. If we just say no vehicular traffic, that's not a simple solution either. We kind of need to think about it and make an informative decision and let the experts give us some options, and the options then we can share with the community and see which way is the best way to go.
Thank you, John.
All right, so I'm going to move this forward, and Will, if you can unmute Sharon, I think she had some questions.
Thank you, John, for those answers. Really do appreciate it. You know what? I'll tell you, I still get delivery trucks and cars who will stop me on the street and ask me where, a particular building is, or, what number is such and such. And I really wanted to follow up your comment regarding signage, because I don't think that the sign at the bottom of the helix has been updated to, reflect, go right. I think, for the octagon, I'm not sure that is the case. And can you tell me about that?
Well, I think the signage.
It's the overhead. It's the overhead. Right when you come around, if you're driving around and coming down the helix, there's a gigantic overhead sign, and I don't think it's been updated. And am I right about that?
To be honest with you, I don't pay attention to the signs because I know where I'm going.
Yeah, well, of course. So
I can take a look at it on when I'm on the island next. I do think, and I think Prince will agree, and I think Shelton will agree, that the signage on the island needs to be improved so people know exactly which way they're going to go. I know the buildings. I know where I need to
Right,
go on the
right,
island.
sure, sure,
So
sure.
it's like me turning on a light switch. I'm not even,
Exactly, of course,
so
and that's the reason why I can't even, the couple of times that I actually looked up, I just don't think that sign has been updated in a good 10 years, but I could be wrong about that.
yeah, I'll take a look at it. But I agree with you. I agree with Paul that one of the components of a traffic study is the proper signage and making sure all the signs are visible. I know there's a couple signs that when the cars are double parked, for example, on Main Street, and I've done it. I'll confess to it. I've gone past the truck and said, "Oh, damn! I almost blew a stop sign because you can't see the stop sign." So there's a lot of issues that come in with the traffic study. Signage is one of the major components.
Okay, and Prince, do you know anything about that sign at the bottom of the helix that hangs above?
Yes, I have noticed that sign, and I know it is outdated. But as part of the traffic study that we are going to be that we're doing, one of the biggest things that we will be looking at is improving and getting rid of a lot of the signs that are just kind of overdone on Main Street. We have a lot of signs like basically just pointing to each other.
Yes.
That, and I did a whole study of that a while ago. So yes, the traffic study is more so the idea behind that is to get a consultant on board that is going to look at everything. It will be obviously implementation will be phased, but as far as the study and recommendations, it will be all encompassing. It'll be from A to Z. So we look at the signs, we look at the roads, we look at one-way, two-way, we look at directional changes, everything.
No, yeah, and I understand the concept of a traffic study, and I really just wanted to emphasize that correct and accurate signage for drivers is absolutely critical, because then they end up doing, a couple of things. They end up doing an illegal U-turn, for example. And I feel so sorry for them when they're stopped, and sometimes given a ticket. But it is important to really look at signage so that drivers know exactly where they're going as soon as they arrive on the island, whether they go left or whether they go right.
Right. I agree with you.
So what I'm going to do now is go ahead and move us to our next presentation, now that we've got Prince right there. And what this is earlier this year, not that long ago, on June 16th, we at our full board community board meeting, we approved a resolution to add a door to our subway station. And so what I'd like to do is go ahead with that presentation in terms of adding an additional. So this was a request that I had made to REOC, because Prince is such an amazing presenter that I wanted to make sure that we could do a presentation that could be understood by people who don't live on Roosevelt Island. So Will, if you could put that presentation in for us.
Oh, I thought Prince was going to share his screen.
Prince, are you going to share your screen, or are we going to do it from?
I am happy to do it though. If Prince, there.
Yes, I'm sorry, I was not prepared to present that. So if you can give me a few minutes, I can pull up the files.
I have the file.
This was a favor Prince did for Community Board 8 Roosevelt Island Committee, because he does such fantastic presentations that I wanted us to be able to move forward with giving a visual information to people that we were presenting this to the MTA and our electeds, so that they could conceptually understand what we were describing in our resolution and our request to them. So.
Yep. Okay. I'm happy. So Lynn, will you be leading through the presentation? I'm happy to add points, or vice versa. I can lead through however you like.
Yeah. So let me get. So, what was happening, and I noticed this when my kids were young, where we would be going places into the city, and they'd be dragging a backpack, or like a book bag thing that they had to pull for. And people would be coming out. So people with mobility issues would be coming out of the station, having just come in from either Queens or Manhattan. And what was happening is that we were going over across the station to the elevator, and they were coming out of the station. And I remember this horrible experience that I had where my son tripped an old lady with his cart because she was walking so slowly and he wasn't paying attention. And I thought, this is a bigger problem than this. And I want to start really addressing what are ways that we can help facilitate easy egress for people with mobility issues. So if you could go to the next slide, Prince. And I'll let you discuss. This is a print slide. I'll let you help us with that one.
Sure. Yeah. So kind of just a little preface. Lynn and I discussed on the sidelines, and one of the things that Lynn wanted to really bring up is the idea that the station is, when it was constructed in 1989, it was new, and over the years, the population, the usage, the folks that come to the island, the people that live on the island have only increased, right? And that's kind of a dull kind of fact. It's obvious that New York City population has increased. So over the years, the use of the subway obviously has increased by quite a lot. Just looking at ridership data, I'm kind of just jumping around the slide. Just looking at the ridership data from 2019 to 2021, 2019 is used as a baseline in this slide, just because, we all know that pandemic has really stressed the subway system. And a lot of folks are, when I say stress, I mean de-stress essentially. A lot of folks are not going to work. A lot of people are working from home. So we can't use that data of daily counts in 2020 or 2021 to really put our point across. 2019 is kind of the last known full year of folks regularly going to work, visiting the island, coming back to the island, using the full subway system in its highest use case. So you see almost about 7,500 people come out of that subway every day, or can go into the subway every day, and close to 7,000 people come out of that subway entrance every day. And what we are talking about here, when I say subway entrance, is really just four entryways, turnstiles that lead you into the subway. And just kind of to contextualize where we are, just right outside of the subway, you have the connections to the Q102 bus that bring you to Astoria. And you also have the REOX Red Bus service, which is the free bus service that loops around the island. The station is actually itself is located between residential buildings, that have, commercial real estate on the first or the ground floor. One side there's a Starbucks, on the other side there's a Duane Reade, and also it leads to a lot of restaurants towards the east side. So the idea was to really look at, okay, we're looking at about close to 7,000 people in and out every single day from just these four entrances. So when that happens, and when there is a scenario of that, what problems does that create? So I think that's what's on the next slides.
Well, and the other thing I wanted to add too is in a very close proximity is also the ferry and the tram. So that there are these other, I have personally seen people either come to take the tram and then walk over to the subway station, or take the subway and then walk over to the ferry, so that there are these transfers of people here in the community to these other modes of transportation. I'm sorry, go ahead, Prince.
That's right. So if you go to the next slide, I think I discussed the challenges. I'm not sure who's controlling the PowerPoint. Next slide, please. Yes. So in this slide, what I wanted to highlight is the discussions I had with Lynn, and that is the current condition. The current condition is only one entrance that I had mentioned. You have 7,000 people going in and out through this one entrance every single day, 4 turnstiles. So wherever there is a rush hour, there are people queuing up behind these turnstiles to either go or come out of the subway system. Once you pass the turnstiles and go inside the subway station, there are 4 sets of escalators that bring you down all 2-3 stories down into the subway platform level. But what's very important to note here is there's only 2 single cab elevators, and that is what causes a lot of the congestion on the entrance level place. Right, so Lynn, if you want to add anything to that.
Well, yeah, and so the part of what I'm trying to illuminate is that the Manhattan bound, which by subway terms is the downtown side, but for us, it's actually the Manhattan side of the station. You have the elevator on that side, which means that if you're coming into the station, you're at the exact opposite of where you need to be. If you're an individual with mobility issues, you literally have to traverse the entire upper level of the station to get to that elevator to be able to access the Manhattan bound trains. And that's a part of where my concern is, and how I saw this poor lady, like my son knocked her over as she was trying to get to that elevator. And it made this a really huge impression on me that it's something that I would love for us to address to make our station that much safer. Go ahead.
Right. And then visually, if you go to the next slide, you'll see the current visual challenges. I believe that's the next slide. Yes, so the current condition, now you can see on the top row of photos is the entrance. Then as you enter, there is this vestibule that by no means is enough space for hundreds of people coming out during rush hour. So there's folks coming out, there's folks trying to get into the subway system. So that's a very difficult space. Then as you get inside the space, as Lynn mentioned, if you are going down towards Manhattan's, if you're going down using the escalators to the subway level, then you can kind of make the ride go down. Or if you're taking the Queenside elevator, I just lost the power. If you're going to the Queenside elevator, you can just take the elevator, go down. But the really big issue is someone with mobility issues trying to access the elevator that's downtown or Manhattan bound, which if you see in the bottom photo, you'll see that someone has to traverse across the whole station, fight through the crowds of folks coming out. And this happens every single day, regardless of what time it is, because, there's, even if it's only 15 people coming out of the subway system, that's 15 too many coming through just one escalator system for someone who's trying to just go across the whole platform area, the whole entrance area, and make it hopefully to their train if they make it. So that's kind of the current condition issue. And if you go to the next slide, you will see diagrams. So this just shows you the challenges, right? I mean, obviously this photo is taken on the worst subway system day during the Cherry Blossom Festival, when we had, when we had thousands of folks on the island, and it created quite a congestion. But this really shows you, look, this is dangerous, potential dangerous situation where no one can go in and out. It gets crowded. And visually looking at this picture, you can see it doesn't really fit that many folks in that area. And if there, if there was an emergency in this situation, the only way out is only one way out. And what Lynn is proposing in the project, she's proposing here, really is the biggest and the best solution to this issue. Which is an addition to the mobility issues in the first place, which is, kind of the level 2 of issues. So if you go to the next image. Next slide, please. This kind of diagrammatically shows you the issue, right? So if you're traveling down on the escalator, and if you are going to the clean side, which is all the yellow, then it's easy. You can move around. If you're coming up from the escalator, it's easy. But if you're traveling across, and you see in this photo as well, you would have to fight with the gentleman there coming up this escalator to really get, to get to the get to your elevator. And this is, I took this photo purposely on not a busy time to show you that, look, not a busy time is busy time for someone who is trying to get to that escalator and has a mobility issue. Because the busy time, it's just worse. Everyone can imagine the worst case scenario, but even the best case scenario is not that good. And that was the reason of this kind of the photo that's of this hour. So now going on to solutions, which is next slide. Lynn, I'd like to take the lead on this, and then I can add it if you would like.
So what I've been proposing, and I've been referring to it, is either the north side of the station or the Starbucks side of the station, depending on whether you live on Roosevelt Island or not. Most Roosevelt Islanders know the Starbucks that's right outside that window. And so that area is a huge glass open window. And so what the proposal is it's to take that area where there's that huge glass window and put some doors there, and then to put some turnstiles there so that you have ready access to that elevator, and then to the downtown / Manhattan bound trains, so that you can come straight into the station and go straight down without having to cross any of the outbound commuters who are coming out of the station. And as Prince showed in the other picture, it doesn't take a lot of people coming out to create a problem for the people going across. And so we really think that this is what I'm going to call a low-hanging fruit solution for the MTA to really create a much safer environment and egress for people with mobility issues. And one of the other comments that I'd like to make about the Roosevelt Island community, and something that I am proud of, is that we have a high percentage of our neighbors who do have some type of mobility issue, and so higher than other communities in other areas, between the seniors and people with disabilities and families who come here because it is so egress friendly for people who are in wheelchairs and other scenarios. And so we do have a higher population per community of people who this would benefit. And so,
right.
Yeah.
And then the next image just shows you what the outdoor conditions are of the area.
So again, that red and yellow square is where we're proposing putting that doorway. And I have to say that my dream would be to have some kind of omni entrance where somebody with a mobility issue can just swipe in and go directly down into the elevator. And then for other people who don't have the same mobility issues but are trying to hurry their way into Manhattan, then they can come into the station without impeding any of the people with disabilities and run through with their Omni Pass and run down that escalator and get to Manhattan. So that's kind of my, what I think would be really helpful to our station, which could be potentially a game changer for the community as it continues to grow. And we still have one building that is yet to be built on Roosevelt Island in that specific area, which is going to just additionally add to the egress issues. And the other thing is, I think it's preemptive because Western Queens and Roosevelt Island are the couple of F train stations that are now, so if we step it back to 2019, we were really starting to have what I'll call rush hour issues in terms of overflow on our platform. And with this, you could actually have, if it got so congested, you could have people coming out of that area and maybe lined up in front of Starbucks to get into that side of the station. And then you still wouldn't impede anyone trying to get out who have just come onto the island from either Queens or Manhattan. And so I think in multiple ways, this would really, really benefit the community in ways of keeping the egress safer and flow of people dramatically better. So those are the reasonings behind our request to the MTA for this entrance. So I did you want to go through the last slide, Prince? I don't remember what was on that.
Just a summary of everything you've talked about so far.
Okay, so what I'm going to do, I think, Sharon, did you have your hand up? Well, yeah.
Thank you, Lynn. This is absolutely awesome. And I mean, it just solves so many problems. And also primary, of course, people being able to access the elevator. But also it takes off some of the pressure of the pinch points, or the pinch point. I should say that in the singular term. It takes some of the pressure off of that pinch point with everybody exiting the subway station or trying to enter the subway station at the same time. I think that this is a phenomenal suggestion, and thank you so much for your leadership on this. It's really needed at that station, and I hope that we can get this done sooner rather than later.
Will, if you could unmute Paul, I think he's got a question.
Just a quick follow-up to say, I think it's a fantastic idea. Thank you so much for bringing it up. I just think it's one of those simple things that we obviously should do it. Thank you, Lynn.
So I'm going to ask Will, we did send this letter, and is there a way that I don't know the procedure for sending the presentation to the MTA. What would be our next step for that?
Oh, I'm happy to send that to the MTA.
Okay. So I think it's just in follow-up to our resolution that we sent to Patrick, is it Foy? Mm-hmm. And then, that this hopefully clarifies what our ask is. And then if you wouldn't mind copying all of our electeds on that so that they can support this effort. Okay, fantastic. So now what I'd like to do then is move our agenda to discussion point 4. And I noticed that Barbara dropped off, and I definitely wanted her to be a part of this conversation. So we'll just start. What I personally have noticed, and I actually have started sending Will some pictures, is that we are having a growing population of homeless people on the island. I know that I've heard reports about a couple of ladies who live in our subway station. I've heard reports about some gentlemen that live around the island. And one of the reasons why I wanted to bring this up as a discussion point was I love the fact that Roosevelt Island is definitely a community of what I call warm-hearted and empathetic people. But unfortunately, I don't know that feeding, clothing, and washing clothes and things like that are necessarily the best solution for the people who are living in the community who are homeless. And so I did talk to a couple of the elected officials, and some of them were interested in potentially having another town hall that not just talks about the issue on Roosevelt Island, where ours is a little more unique than some of my neighbors in Community Board 8 in Manhattan, but that many of the community members, when I started the conversation with Will about this, he's like, nobody's reporting homeless people. And I go, no, here we don't, we feed them, you know, which, and so then that's when I started sending him pictures. And my concern for this community in particular is that once it gets out that this is a really safe place for homeless people, I'm concerned that the issue will grow and that we will start finding more and more people who are homeless here. And I see that Sharon has her hand up, so if you can unmute Sharon. So
thank you, Will. Thank you, Lynn. I think that the word is out, by the way, and it is growing, and has actually for quite some time. In recognizing that homelessness should not be criminalized, poverty should not be criminalized. And so I appreciated your comments about what Roosevelt Island people are doing, because we do recognize that poverty should not be criminalized. You know, but there are certain things that are happening that we need to get a better handle on with the homeless population on Roosevelt Island. And I'm not sure that a town hall will help, but I think we really, really need to aggressively and proactively get some experienced homeless outreach workers to target Roosevelt Island. And, you know, this is something that we'll have to work on aggressively, because oftentimes Roosevelt Island is not taken seriously, as well as the Upper East Side, in terms of addressing issues that are important to us, because it's you know, I think it can be said that the problem is more serious perhaps in other areas, but it's definitely serious on Roosevelt Island, particularly for a couple of reasons, because it's you know, where you know, it's a community that's surrounded by water, one, and also because our population is a little bit smaller, and some would say substantially so. But I would be interested in in putting efforts into getting homeless outreach workers to talk with homeless individuals and present options for moving into permanent housing, and certainly a lifestyle that that supports them and is certainly respects their dignity as a human being.
So the other thing that I'm thinking, Sharon, is that what I would like to do now, because we have Prince and we have John on, is maybe invite Chief Brown to maybe come to our next community board meeting and just give us an idea of how things are being managed at this point. Because I honestly don't know what REAC is doing in terms of dealing with some of the homeless issues. John, if you, Will, if you could unmute John. Will?
Yeah, I'm just thinking off the top of my head here because we've noticed that at least a couple of guys walking around the streets, and we've had some issues over at the Mcmanus Comfort Station that I don't want to blame it on homeless, but we've had the brand new comfort station clogged 2 straight weekends. But Kohler is only half full. They have the ability to handle 800 residents. There may be an option that we can offer Kohler as a place of assistance to these people. It's a hospital. They have health care there if there's health care needed. I don't know. I know they have permanent residents. I know that they have a different structure and everything. But I mean, if Kohler would open up a couple of spaces or a wing, we may be able to use that facility as an option.
And I think that's a great idea, John, and kind of piggybacking off of what Sharon said. I definitely think that people in the Roosevelt Island community really have more of a humanitarian vision of people who are homeless. I think that's why we don't report them and we feed them and we try to help them. And I think that knowing that this is a safer place, because so many people who are homeless have mental health issues. And I know that they have some really strong programs in Kohler. They're one of the few from Mr. Hughes's mouth to my ear. Kohler Hospital has one of the strongest mental health programs of any rehabilitation facility. So that may be something that we can start some discussions on in terms of keeping these people who have come to our community safe in our community, but be in a safer environment and a more supportive environment.
Yep.
Sharon, did you still have your hand up?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention, first of all, John, that I really appreciate everything that REAC does for our community, and in often cases it's a thankless job. But I do want us to tread lightly with proposing Kohler. We've just we still have not, we cannot say that we have conquered this pandemic, number one. And number two, in some cases, places like Kohler were used to house individuals who had the virus, and and unfortunately, in in nursing homes, but certainly Kohler presents that type of hospital setting. And also, I just don't think that Kohler has the wherewithal to handle some of the challenges, for example, that Lynn said, in terms of some homeless individuals having mental health issues. You know, I'm so reluctant to add something to REAC's to-do list, but I'm going to forge ahead as I do with my husband and his to-do list, and ask if you if there's any way that REAC could reach out to the Department of Homeless Services, for example, and ask that they send outreach representatives to Roosevelt Island consistently and persistently. I'm hoping, I'm keeping my fingers crossed that perhaps this is something that REAC could do.
Sharon, I don't want to interject too much here, but the Department of Homeless Services, I've reached out to them about this as well. Their model is not that they go out and canvass, they do that as well, but they often rely on people using 311 to report the location, whether it's John and REAC or it is, residents of the island. When you see somebody who is experiencing homelessness and in need of assistance, you should report that person to 311 so that the Department of Homeless Services and their contractors, Breaking Ground and other Goddard Riverside in our neighborhood in the Upper East Side, can go out and do the outreach to that individual person. It should not be on the DHS to go out and do canvassing as much as when you see somebody, do that quick 311. You can do it through the app, you can do it on the phone, you can do it on your computer, and it only takes a couple of minutes, less than 2 minutes. And if you do that, then somebody will go out there.
Yeah, okay, so that makes sense. So what you're saying is that DHS does not, just for clarification, because I'm certainly relying on your expertise in this area. So DHS does not send out homeless outreach workers to particular areas unless it goes through.
That's not necessarily what I was trying to say.
Okay.
They use a model where they go to specific locations, and once they have identified a location for a client, they will go back to that location, especially if it's very common that that person is bedding down in the same place or, setting up, an encampment in the same place.
Okay.
But the model is designed for as much to be reported as it is for them to have a happenstance chance encounter. And so that's why it is incredibly important. Even if you hand that person a sandwich, you should then walk away and report, to 311 where they are, what they're wearing, and so that a person can go out, that a person who is a trained social worker can go out there and offer them services. And oftentimes it takes 50, 100, 200 times between a social worker interacting with that person and them actually accepting services. So don't be discouraged. This is for anybody else who's watching, right? Don't be discouraged when the first time, the second time, the fifth time, and the 10th time they decline those services.
I realize that it does take some time. So the process is to call 311. So for example, a community board, Community Board 8, for example, has not sent a letter to the Department of Homeless Services, for example, for something for a homeless issue on the Upper East Side. So the idea is strictly to have everything go through 311.
I would say this: 311 is the fastest way to get a trained person who works with and who's a social worker who works with the Department of Homeless Services, either
Okay,
employed by them directly or a contracted employee through Breaking Ground, BRC, Goddard Riverside, any
okay,
of these service providers, and they usually
okay.
go
This
out
is
there
really
and
good to know.
they usually go out there within the first 30 minutes. They're
Yes,
definitely there by the first hour.
okay.
If you send me an email, especially at
So,
night, I'm not
sure.
going to see it until the next morning, or maybe I will.
Right, right. So, just to answer my question, thank you so much for this information because it's been very enlightening. As a matter of fact, as we go through this process, my
Karen,
specific
what I
question.
want to add
Yes.
is that
Mhm.
one of the things and one of the reasons why I wanted to address this issue is I really wanted to start the discussion because there has to be what I'm going to call a community culture change and getting information out to people on the fact that they really should be reporting the people that they're seeing on 311
Okay.
and so that we start educating our community. People have a heart here for helping people, and there's no question in my mind about that. But we want to do it in the most productive way for that person. And so I think that getting as much that I would like to see our next step be to get some connections with people, or maybe even get a social worker that deals with homelessness to kind of tell us what are some of the best ways to do that, to interact, to deal with 311. How do we support that individual in the best manner? So
Okay.
that's why I wanted
Yeah.
to start this discussion, because I love
Sure.
that people are supportive here, but I would like us to take it to the next level and be the right kind of supportive.
Yeah, 100%. Will, if you could answer a question, has Community Board 8 sent a letter to the Department of Homeless Services regarding a homeless problem anywhere in the district?
How about this? I email with the Department of Homeless Services all the time. And I can only speak for the last 3 years,
Okay.
3.5 years, 3 years and 9 months.
Wow,
anyways.
that's all you. That's how long. I just think so much longer.
Because you saw me for 4 years prior to that.
Okay.
But I would say
Okay.
I don't think we've ever sent a letter. But we do meet with the Department of Homeless Services on a regular basis, on a every 2 months sort of basis. We have a meeting, and then we also, I email with them and call and speak on the phone with them all the time.
Yes, I understand.
And so if there are particular locations that you see somebody, you can raise them with me and I will talk to them about it, and we can do a little bit more targeted outreach.
Okay.
But generally speaking, day to day, if you see somebody,
Yeah.
that you should
makes
use the
sense.
311 app as well.
Okay. Thank you so much for that information. Don't forget the post office, Lynn.
As far as
somebody's there on that bench.
yeah, there are
the post office.
Yeah, there are a few places that seem to be favorite places. But thank you for having this discussion today. And Will, I'm sure we're going to talk some more about how to kind of address it for the community. And then John, if we could have maybe again, Chief Brown come on and talk to us about what specifically you guys are doing on Roosevelt Island currently. And then maybe that will help facilitate some other discussions on what we can do more successfully for these people that the community is trying to support.
Sure, we can do that next meeting for sure.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and move the agenda forward. And so this hopefully is a really quick discussion. And since I've got your attention, John, I'm going to pose it directly to you. So what we'd like to see happen for some of the organizations that are in the community. So we have our Carter Burden Senior Center and the Roosevelt Island Disabled Association and some other community organizations that, because of their locations, they don't have leases. And because they don't have leases in their location, they are not eligible for supportive funding from other entities. And we were wondering if there's a way that we can somehow get that onto the REOC radar so that we can help facilitate these community groups getting deeper funding.
Yeah, so I would have to take a look at that, Lynn.
Okay.
The spaces that they occupy, I believe, is under the sublease that Hudson Related has. And Hudson Related, they have the sublease. We have a lease, they have the sublease, and I think all that space that they use is in the wire buildings. I don't think that would be an issue putting a lease together. It's just a matter of, from a lease, it needs to be included in that lease to make sure that they qualify. So, for example, I don't know if we say, okay, they got a lease and zero rent, if that qualifies, or if they need to pay rent. I don't know the legal aspects of that. So I would have to take a look at how the leases are structured and how we would need to structure a lease to get them in play to qualify for whatever grant or support they would be able to get.
Yeah. Okay, so I just kind of wanted to get that. Sharon, did you have a point you wanted to make about that issue? I see your hand up. Is that, did you?
No, I'm good, Lynn. Thank you.
All right. So I'm going to go ahead.
Let's just make sure you send me a note on that.
Sure.
So I can follow up on it, because it's something that I don't want to fall through the cracks. So just make sure you send me a note on that, and I can follow up on it.
My pleasure. My pleasure. And so then I don't know of any old business. Does anybody have any old business? Seeing none, I'm going to go to some new business. And I actually had 2 points of information for new business. And so I'm going to ask you, Will, if you can do that picture of the half road that I took from another viewpoint from the one that Prince had. But what I'd like to do, what I was hoping to do today, was a resolution for requesting that we extend the current half road that goes near the EPA site to a full road that goes east-west, so that there's a full egress east-west on the north end of Roosevelt Island. And so this is the picture when you're standing at Main Street and then looking down. I kind of pointed out earlier that that's a road right adjacent to the Mcmanus Field. And I think it would be an incredible addition to the community, both for, our safety things and whatnot, so when Octagon apartment building was built, before it was there was a full east-west road and egress in that area. And so what I'm proposing now is that we also recreate the east-west egress, so that we have a road that goes through to our west side of the island. So that's my point A on new business. And then point B on the new business is that we would like to help facilitate that the Omni system also be instituted for the Roosevelt Island Tram. From my understanding, the Omni system being added to the tram is significantly out and may not even be on the radar of the MTA. And so what we would love to do is see if there's a way that we can get attention again on this issue, that particularly with our elevator being completed, wouldn't it be wonderful if the tram system which is part of the metro system, also becomes part of the Omni system.
So, Lynn, I don't know. Am I muted or am I?
I can hear you. Yeah, we're hearing you.
So we've been working with Omni for 2 years. We had quarterly conversations with them. Basically, when I started at REAC shortly after December 2018. So they had prioritized how they were going to install Omni, and they started with buses in Staten Island and I think that then they went into Manhattan and then Queens and the Bronx. We were set by the MTA, Roosevelt Island, and the Cram was set in a priority listing, not with our input, but basically unilaterally by the MTA, that they were going to do the Long Island Railroad first and PATH next, and then we were going to be third on the list after they got Staten Island, Manhattan, the Bronx, Queens, and Brooklyn done. We were scheduled to have negotiations and discussions with them in the spring of this year to negotiate the new contract. We were given the vendor name who was supplying the equipment, and we made contact with them. The last I heard from them was February 2020, right before the pandemic hit. And they gave us all that information. We had quarterly meetings. I started in December of 2018, so the first quarter of 2019 is when I first got involved in it. It's kind of fallen off the priority list or the cliff at this point because of the pandemic. I haven't heard from them in some time now. I believe it has to do with the pandemic. I still think that they have the Long Island Railroad teed up to be the next. Then comes the PATH, and then comes Roosevelt Island. We were scheduled to have everything done by the late fall, early winter of this year, or early winter of next year. So we will be in position to be in play by January 1st, 2023, when that was their deadline to have everything in place. I don't know if they've extended that deadline or not, but we have definitely been in negotiations with them. We have information. We know who the vendor is that we have to contact. They were scheduled to come over and look at both platforms this spring. We haven't heard from them. I think the pandemic is for sure had something to do with that, but it's not something that's REAC has ignored or Roosevelt Island is not going to be in play for. And we anticipate and hope that we can have that done by January 1st, 2023. If not, sometime thereafter, but we're definitely on the priority list of having the Omni revenue collection system on our island at some point.
Yeah, so I had heard an unpleasant rumor, and I didn't know how true it was, that we had been downgraded to having them facilitated sometime in 2025. And I was a little worried about that because it's already a challenge for the people who are using the subway, because the Omni is up and functional in our Roosevelt Island station. And then if they try to transfer, they can't transfer then over to the Tram. And so I heard some feedback on that. And I just really kind of wanted to get a little more updated on what was going on with that.
Yeah, I haven't heard the 2025 date. It's not. I don't think it's complicated. We have to reach out to the vendor. They have to upgrade the revenue collection system, and when they upgrade the revenue collection system, which is our call, and when it gets done, I mean it's basically putting a couple of new turnstiles in. I don't think it's that significant. I haven't heard that 2025 date, but with the pandemic in play, I don't know where they are relative to the Long Island Railroad or the PATH station. I don't know how that's impacted us relative to that priority. Now, I tried to convince them that we were so small and such an easy
low-hanging fruit
install that why can't they do me sooner? I got basically talking about 6 or 7 turnstiles and tried to convince them that why don't you just do us first and get it over with, and you can deal with the mammoth Long Island Railroad later on in the day, but it didn't fall. One of the issues, and this is a sad story, I was dealing with, I forget the guy's last name, Mike from the MTA, was really a nice guy.
So John's frozen. Oh.
2 years ago, this past June, he had a heart attack and died.
Oh, wow.
And then the whole thing kind of flipped, and then we didn't hear from anybody for a couple months, and then we reconnected and stuff. So I think there's a couple of things that are in play here.
Okay, so I did want to kind of get that on people's radar, that it is something that I've heard from people in the community that they would, you know, because I think our community again sees us like you did, John, as low-hanging fruit. Why isn't it just easy to come and do our couple of turnstiles? So I definitely wanted to get that on people's radar and, you know, start a conversation with how to move that forward.
Yeah, so we're basically at the whim of the MTA on this one. We did everything we could to try to get them to move us up on the priority list and renegotiate the contract and do everything we can, but it just kind of, the pandemic hit and then everything kind of fell off. And I know if you read David Stone's blog, he talks about it. You know, we really haven't had conversations with them about this. What are we going to do? That's really not accurate. I mean, I've been talking to them since I started with REOC and trying to understand, you know, how we're going to move this along.
So I think what we could do is maybe bring that up as a topic in our next Roosevelt Island Community Board meeting, and actually in between now and then, maybe have a conversation with our electeds about how we can maybe get a little more attention to Roosevelt Island in terms of that priority chain.
Yeah, it's not a lot of money. It's basically pull a couple turnstiles out and pull a couple in, and then them doing the work on the other side to make sure everything's connected and we have connectivity.
Yep. Thank you, John, and I really appreciate you joining us. And Prince, thank you for joining us. And Corey, thank you for joining us. And unless somebody else has some other new business, I think we're good. And I appreciate everyone's time this evening. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.